Today what we're going to talk about is the 10 biggest surprises that I had when going through the process of getting my private pilot license. The first of these things that I want to talk about is checklists. I was surprised by how many checklists there are inside of aviation. There's a checklist for how you take a look at the outside of the airplane. There's a checklist for when you're taxiing. There's a checklist for when you're in cruise. There are checklists for literally everything. The second tip that I would give to somebody looking to get their private pilot license is you need to plan on flying frequently. One of the things that I noticed is I was flying pretty frequently. I was making progress. I was getting better at my landings, at holding altitudes, my steep turns. I was getting better and making good progress on this. But then I had a business trip that I had to take. We had some nasty weather come into southeast Idaho. And because of that, I didn't fly for over a month. And when I came back to flying, I got really frustrated because before I was at a little bit higher level. And then when I came back, I was definitely rusty. And it was almost like I wasted an entire flight just getting back to the point where I was before I took that 1 month hiatus. Flying frequently is something that I would really encourage you to do. The third surprise that I had when getting my private pilot license was I wasn't ready for the fact that I was learning another language. Now, English is the language of aviation, so if you're a native English speaker, you're fine there. But what I mean is, when you're talking with ATC, or air traffic controllers, that was a totally different language to me. The other thing that was interesting is there were very specific times that I had to be prepared to rattle off a pretty decent sized sequence. And then, once I got my sequence in there, then ATC responds. And not all ATC guys are gonna respond the same way. They might, if you're coming in to land at a Class D airport, they're gonna tell you, hey, you're totally fine, and why don't you tell me when you're midfield for runway 21? Well, that's gonna be different than somebody else that says, hey, by the way, no, you need to kind of come around and you need to make right traffic for runway 21 and notify me when you're 3 miles out. It's very different, and so it's not just learning to be able to rattle off a particular set of phrases. It's also knowing, well, wait a minute, he just told me this, so I need to react this way. The fourth tip is closely related with that, and it's the fact that getting your private pilot license is work. Now, I've been out of college for a little while now. I've been out of college for about 20 years, and I wasn't ready for getting back into the books. And for me, studying to take a test is a little bit different than talking with clients or going to conferences and meeting with cohorts and colleagues. It's different. Getting back into the books was different, okay? So there's that part of it. But the other side of it too is when I'm in the plane, you're learning so many things. There's so many things coming at you that at the end of a flight, I was exhausted. Coming into it with an understanding that this is going to be work and I'm going to be mentally, physically putting in a lot of effort here. That's one thing that was a surprise to me. The fifth surprise to me was old doesn't mean bad. But one of the things that I was shocked by is I'm walking in and we've got a 1976 plane. I mean, that plane's almost 50 years old. I'm looking at it and I'm looking at my CFI and I'm saying, hey, this is the plane that we're flying in. I see YouTube videos of these guys in some serious SR-20s and 22s. And I'm thinking, yeah, that's how to fly. And we've got a 1976 Cessna 172. I wasn't quite ready for that. Old doesn't mean bad though, okay? That plane is in good shape. The technology that was in it, the steam gauges, they were still totally fine. Everything worked great. It doesn't have to be this completely glass cockpit in order for you to get the experience that you need out of flying. The sixth thing that surprised me, or maybe a way to phrase that is some advice that I'd give to you, is to relax. I talk about this especially with landings because even right now, I'm about 33 hours into my private pilot license, and when I'm coming in for landings, I am still way too tense. And so I would encourage you to just relax. There's other YouTubers out there that tell you, hey, maybe you put a marker in between your fingers, because if you're pushing down too hard, it'll remind you, it'll cause a little bit of discomfort there. It'll remind you to just loosen up a little bit. I think a loose pilot is a safer, more agile pilot. The seventh tip or surprise for me is all the multitasking you're doing in the airplane. At first, I couldn't reach down and grab the throttle. I'd have to look at grabbing the throttle. Well, now I've got a little bit more muscle memory and I can make those adjustments. That makes it a lot easier to multitask. If you're constantly having to look at everything that you're trying to touch, it's pretty difficult to multitask. Get comfortable with the multitasking. The eighth tip that I'd have for you is to be patient. And I guess this goes along with the multitasking thing, because you need to understand that Rome wasn't built in a day. Jaeger didn't become a fantastic pilot right away. You need to be comfortable with the fact that this is going to take you a while. If you're somebody that's really confident in everything that you do, well, good luck inside of aviation, because this is going to humble you really fast. For me, I thought, my first couple of lessons went really, really well. I thought, man, I've got this. I'm going to be a good pilot. And as some of these other skills started to get layered on top of my training, I got humbled really fast. Specifically, man, I can't maintain altitude in a steep turn to save my life. So I would encourage you to just be a little bit patient. The 9th tip or surprise that I had, and tip that I'd have for you, is be comfortable with the fact that there's a lot of redundancies. And that's, it's for very obvious reasons. You're in 1-ton machine that could come falling out of the sky. Part of that learning process is identifying, if this breaks, what does that mean? Where do I get that information? Or if this particular piece of technology is not available, where else can I get that same kind of feedback or that same kind of information? Getting comfortable with those redundancies and those different methods, those different types of ways is something that's going to be important for you. The last tip that I have for you, number 10, is get a good CFI. Not all CFIs are created equal. And what I would encourage you to do is actually talk to a few. I had phone interviews with 3 different CFIs before I finally settled on my CFI. And what I was looking for is I was looking for personality fit. I was looking for teaching style even was something that was important to me. One of the CFIs that I interviewed was a little bit younger in their experience, and I was worried that they were going to get paranoid or panic. And one of the reasons that I really like my currently CFI is because he's not somebody that's going to instantly get a little nervous and take the yoke. Don't get committed to a CFI that's not going to teach you in a way that's going to be helpful for you. One bonus tip, it's the fact that getting your license is not a race. I would watch YouTube videos of these guys that say, yeah, I got my license in 40 hours, or I got it in a month, or whatever it is. And sometimes that got a little bit of head trash for me, and I started to get a little worried that maybe I'm not a very good pilot because it's taking me a little while to master some of these skills. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. Don't do it at all. This is all about you pursuing something that you love, that you're passionate about, and most importantly, that you're being safe. I hope you enjoyed these 10 tips. Again, this is my experience in getting my private pilot license, and I'm hoping that sharing that with you makes your experience a little bit better as well. Be sure to like us, subscribe to the channel here, also give us a thumbs up. There's also a nice little bell on YouTube to be notified of any future videos that we publish here. We look forward to seeing you at the next video.